Good to see you too.
How have you been?
Really good actually. How about yourself?
Been doing really well. Keeping busy.
Very busy, yes.
Thinking about a lot about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get a handle on it.
I've also been kind of just looking at this, but also looking at kind of the stuff that's been going on in the province as well, and how it'll reflect on how the changes are going to happen through the municipality.
Yeah, well, those relationships are primary between city, province, and the country. Hey, thanks for making these, by the way.
Oh, no problem,
Look at this. Look at this.
I finally got
Isn't she great? Right here, cheers.
Woo!
Cheers.
Woo. It's our first merch, anyway. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So let's dig right into it. Sir, where do you want to start today?
Just have a quick mention. One of the things
Yes.
that they were talking about was the, go up here. One of the things they were talking about was the Canadian Home Builders Association benchmarking study, where London ranked third overall in this national study, highlighting the city's efficient deployment of a development process, blah, blah, blah. So good job.
Yay!
Yes, the London plan is working. This is great.
It is working, but it is old. And we need to bring it up to right now. We're looking at, the London plan is looking at numbers pre whatever happened during COVID. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of issues in terms of like the infill issue. London plan really doesn't address that as much as new developments have, especially with the province. So there's a lot of things with the London plan that we love, but there's a lot of things with the London plan that we need to change.
Yeah, there's always certainly room for improvement. It seems like they're approving a lot of housing units. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's something like astounding, like 20,000 in the last year.
They have to.
Right, and that's great. Of course, there are always questions, how affordable are these units going to be? You know what I mean? But it certainly helps address the supply problem.
Sure, yes, it does address the supply problem, but it also, we have to look at some of the terminology, and you were mentioning this last time. There's some things called like deeply affordable housing. There's affordable housing. There's like cooperative housing. Yeah, so there's all those terms, and again, it makes it very nuanced, complicated, and if people aren't really paying attention to those nuances and details, agendas can be struck, and people may have, ways to kind of, circumvent certain rules through that.
Well, I think we're going to be touching on a lot of these topics, like the housing issue, especially because it comes up in the conversations later. But I just did want to acknowledge that, London is doing well. I think that's important to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But there are certainly challenges remaining. I think the big first thing we wanted to talk about was the green development guidelines discussion.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. Why don't you start, and then I can...
Okay, well, basically, Council is concerned that new legislature from the province, namely Bill 17, will interfere with these new green development guidelines the city is working on implementing. So they're voting on whether or not to refer this issue back to staff. Like, personally, well... Bill 17 is trying to actually restrict directly the amount of green building codes that the city can implement over the province's rules, because the province really wants to focus on housing building. So they want to restrict administrative checkboxes, which is what I think this program is. And
So really, essentially, what I think it is just giving mayors the stronger powers. I think that it's just all about the province controlling municipalities more and more and more. And unfortunately, with the latest bill, Bill 5, there was some legislation in there that took away some of the powers of the municipalities. But also what it does is it kind of makes every city in Ontario kind of like a little ministry for the sitting government right now. So it's kind of like, okay, we're going to give, say, Mayor Morgan the mandate up from Ontario, and he's just going to fulfill whatever this is. So then it just takes away more power from the people on the ground, and our council is going to be... Yeah, it is. It is. And it's not just that it's what's the word? It's almost dishonest in the way this legislation is going, is that we're trying to make cities stronger, but instead of making them stronger by making democracy better, by downloading these things down to the level of where council can make the decisions, they're uploading it up to where the mayor is. So then, therefore, the mayor can be controlled by the province. It's a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting kind of manipulation the province is working on right now.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
How I see it in that respect is that there's kind of a hierarchy, right, from the federal government to the province and the cities, and they all have their own domains, but the money kind of runs from the top down usually, right? Yeah. So I think the relationship between these levels of government is primary. Now, basically, the councillors were talking about essentially a conflict between the costs of these, where Stevenson was talking about consulting fees, but also just how restrictive it'll be, right? With Deputy Mayor Sean Lewis was pointing out that it would be restrictive, whereas Councillor Trossow thought that they should go ahead, and he also talked about some of his support of climate reform. But my question is, here's my point. It's like, where are the specific solutions and recommendations? We need to be able to do both. And in my mind, there's only two ways of doing that. If we want to have responsible development and fast development at the same time, it's either just going to cost more, or we need to change the paradigm, right? And there are different ways of doing this. So you have like the kind of offsetting method that the federal government is big into right now, where you could, let's say, have a new kind of green development, something radical, something like really shifting, something new that goes along on one side of the city, whereas you have more conventional development on the other side of the city, in
so like zoning,
new types of zoning, for me, it's like they want to keep biodiversity as something primary, which is important. But to me, it's like, it's the Thames River ecosystem you need to worry about if you really want to maintain biodiversity. So it's like, put less emphasis, let the province mandate less, cut down the red tape or whatever. Fine. We already have a lot of building codes that are protecting like the quality of housing, and we continue to improve those normally. But it's like the federal government and province are already concerned with climate change. It's like, let's let them do that, but let's have something new. Let's save the river, continue, improving the river, and try something new. There's like passive building, right? Rainwater collection systems. All sorts of stuff we've been doing to decentralize and like offset the costs. They could be incentivized. Yeah. It's like, if we had these running in parallel, we would have compliance and agreement on the provincial level, and then we'd have something innovative and exciting that we can help brand ourselves with. Furthermore, it's like they're always talking about business cases.
So I like where you're going with this. I think that. Yeah, and I think that's what Councillor Frank and Trossow were trying to do. But the problem is if they come down in the next couple of weeks and say, here's Bill 17 and wipe it all out, well, why would we spend the $125,000 to do that? That's like, it's like I would say the refer. So then let's just push it out another 2 months just to see what happens and then make that decision. So maybe it's the referral issue or deferring it. So
yeah, I would have tried to just get rid of it. Yeah. I would have scrapped the whole thing. Yeah. Because it's something that comes up later in the conversation. It's like the Deputy Mayor Lewis talks about the weightiness of the strategic plan, right? And already here I'm looking like we have the GDG, which is the Green Development Guidelines. Right. But we already also have an urban forest strategy, right? We also have the Climate Emergency Action Plan. Right? And then there's the London plan, the strategic plan. Like how many plans and how much redundancy? This is also a big part of the conversation. Remember, they're talking about redundancy in the legal issues of getting the loans back from partners in housing. Yeah. Yeah. So it's all connected, right? Yeah. And like, I think it's something I want to talk about later. I think it's all a big mess. And like, they're onto it, but it's like, where are the solutions? Where are the points of focus? If we need, like, they have the strategic plan. I'll talk. Can we dive into this? Yeah, and I agree with you. Like, this is the thing, and I think the Deputy Mayor Lewis mentioned it, that there are 500 different priorities, and so there's no focus.
there needs to be more focus. Let's word it that way. There needs to be more focus. There needs to be more definition. And the other thing too is they're just literally what Councillor Stevenson said is they're just checking like check marks off. They're not even reevaluating to see, did it stick? Did it work? What happened? It's just, let's just keep working and not even, we're too busy going forward without looking backwards, and you need to look backwards in government.
I think some of it is lip service too, right? Going back to the GDG, right? It's like, okay, Councillor Trossow speaks to the importance of the environment, that he, you know, it's his prerogative, right? Maybe he believes that represents his constituency, that's fine. But it's like, the plan talks about like friendly development for birds and bicycle parking.
Yes.
Like, trees could do that, essentially. It's just like, if you had these mandates, say, to improve canopy coverage, to increase canopy coverage across the city, that would be so effective at offsetting carbon, at cooling neighborhoods, and it'd be extremely inexpensive.
So Nick, I was in Turkey 2 years ago, and I went through streets that had the canopy, and they were 10 to 15, no, I'd say within the 20 degrees more.
Yeah.
Like, as you go in more, it becomes so cool, and there's breezes and stuff. So the way to solve this is planting more trees, and we are the forest city. So we just kind of have to go back to basics, I think.
We were the forest city.
What are we? Oh, we're the music city now?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, among other things. But like the strategic plan. Okay, so there are 8 main points of it.
Right. Sorry.
Oh, you don't have to apologize.
I know.
Enjoy it. Enjoy the...
I'm just laughing about it. So go ahead. Yeah, there's 8 main...
You can't laugh, you cry.
That's the deal right now. Anyways, so
yeah, so even if you just look at like the 8 strategic main points of the strategic plan, this is the kind of superordinate strategy, right?
Yes.
So we have number 1, reconciliation, equity, accessibility, and inclusion. It's like these are all excellent things, and they are all highly related things, and they are good things. Okay, and then we have housing and homelessness. Good. Then there's well-being and safety, as well as number 4, safe London for women, girls, and gender diverse and trans people. These are all great things, but maybe we can get everything under one safety thing somehow. Group these together with economic growth, culture, and prosperity. That's another one. So it's like we're putting culture with economic prosperity. It says economic growth and prosperity. That means the same thing. And then we have mobility and transportation. Great. We already have accessibility over here. So these are related. Then climate action and sustainable growth. And the 8th and final one, a well-run city. And it's like, I think that's
number 1.
That's what we're all hoping for.
I think right there, that's not like, I don't understand that's the strategy, but like, okay, well-run city, that should be your number 1 goal, I think. And how do you get there? And that's, I mean, the rest of it, I mean, the strategy is there. It's like, how do we get there? Well, you need some good leadership. And I think right now things are too, just looking from the 500 priorities, I don't see the leadership there. Maybe if they can isolate maybe 5 of those priorities, 5 really key priorities, and say, okay, well, one of them would be homelessness, obviously, but one of them would be affordability. So that would be, there's those issues.
It's an organizational scheme, like a cognitive scheme, right? Yeah. It's like you organize things so you know how they work together. Like you're trying to kind of get a grasp on everything that's happening, right?
Yeah.
So you say 5. I really try to actually reduce those 8, and I could do it in 5, but I came up with the 6 pillars of City Hall.
Okay, let's hear them. I want to hear them.
So I'm kind of trying to redesign it and simplify it and group things along functional lines in terms of how the services are being delivered, like where needs come together. See, you said the well-run cities number 1. I put human rights. So number 1 is reconciliation and human rights. So this
for a city?
Yeah. Well, just hold on.
Okay.
Because they already have. So I'm trying to put the equity, inclusion, accessibility.
But that's number 1.
Reconciliation. Well, the order isn't important.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think I'm right about everything.
Okay.
But I think human rights is actually primary because not like universally. So I'm also trying to use more neutral language that is less divisive, which is
Yeah.
something we're actually even seeing from Carney, like when with the carbon tax. One of the cited reasons for ending it is that it was divisive.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it really was, and there's a certain argument to that. So, okay, so I'll just name them first, and then we'll go through them.
Okay.
Reconciliation and human rights. 2, housing, health, and safety. Putting those 3 together. Shared prosperity and accountable government.
I like it.
Mobility, accessibility, and infrastructure.
Yeah.
Creativity, culture, and innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And ecology and sustainability.
Okay.
Right? So by putting housing and health and safety together, we're like, all 3 relate to basic human dignity and protection.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all kind of inseparable on a basic level. And when we're talking about housing, we're talking about all the things you're talking about, like the hubs, highly supportive housing, affordable housing, emergency shelters.
Yeah. That is human rights. That's all human rights do.
I think as a society, that's what we need to be aspiring to.
Yeah.
If we're a developed nation, and we want to be thought leaders and leaders in like ethics, absolutely housing is imperative. Like food,
housing should
housing,
be like I think like
education.
Education's it's good, but you need to have housing before you can have education,
Yeah.
right? So that's my point. My point is like when you look at all of these things, I always think like, what's the first thing you want? Like the first thing you want is when you go outside your door, you don't want, sorry for lack of a better word, sewage in front of your house, right? So
Yeah,
that's
well, I live right downtown. I see it every day. You see it. You see it coming here. You do.
See it, but municipal services are municipal services. So I'm saying that as soon as I walk out my door, what do I want to see? I want to make sure that I can get to work, that it's safe, that like, things aren't coming out of the sky, that it's clean, that my garbage is picked up, that my poop is processed, that sort of thing that we're expecting from municipal services, that I think those are, let's go back to basics again.
Yeah.
Like, so you want to take that idea of human rights. Well, how do we apply that to municipal services? And then that's where we go with it.
Well, why I put it first, because reconciliation and human rights acts as like a cultural lens through which we can judge everything else we do, like make it a primary concern, because it's like it's about the rights of the individual and the rights for everybody to be able to participate in the community. You know what I mean? And to be safe. And that's why safety I have second. So, but of course, like under the reconciliation and human rights, I call it, trying to use neutral language. It's about embedding human rights into all policies and services. It affirms the rights of people with disabilities, racialized communities, newcomers, and to us LGBTQIA plus residents. So it's like,
it's inclusive. But
the main title, I think reconciliation is really important because like we want to be ecologically oriented, and just to be honest, like there's overrepresentation like in Indigenous population and like in these systems, in the housing systems.
100%.
So it's like, to me, it's like it's a good representation, and it's like it speaks also to Canadian identity as well.
Well, I love this whole idea because it goes back to even decolonization, and when you start thinking about the idea of reconciliation, you're not just taking what happened to the Indigenous people, but you're looking at how everyone really around the world that was colonized, and there's that mentality that all of us kind of have to work on and kind of
absolutely
but making that kind of sticking that in the municipal code,
reconciliation, like the meaning of the word itself, what does it mean to reconcile?
It
means to heal. I love
the idea of it. Like I just think that that's such a great place to start from.
Thank you. I'm convinced
you have thank you.
Human rights and reconciliation. Okay, so then we have 2, housing, health, and safety. So we already talked about this. All 3 things are the basis of health, safety. So because what's happening with the whole community response already is there's an integration of like emergency and police services with like outreach and these hubs, of which there are only 2 thus far. But anyway, they're already looking at combining those things, right?
Yeah.
Integrating them. So it's like, okay, housing, health, and safety.
I like it. And then you also include like LHSC.
London, exactly.
You include all of these other in that kind of, yeah.
Because they're part of the system too.
Yeah.
They're part of the response, right?
I like it.
And it's like you want more detox beds, so you want it all to be connected, right? I have priorities for all these. I have I've labeled one or two, I think a total of 11, one or two priorities per header that I think need to be primary focus. And it's based on our discussions and the research I've been doing for these discussions.
That's awesome.
So number 3, shared prosperity and accountability and accountable government.
Yeah.
Focuses on transparent, effective governance alongside economic development that benefits everyone. Supports local businesses, ethical budgeting, inclusive employment creation.
Okay, so I always have this theoretical discussion with people. What is a budget? Seriously, what is a budget for a city?
It's a huge amount of $1.4 billion.
So, but what is it? So when I say to you the budget of the city, what does that mean?
Well, I don't know. What is it?
So there's two ways you can see it. Well, there's two ways to look at it. It's either an investment, right, or it's the soul. So there's two really cool ways to look at it. So when I look at a budget, I see this is money. This is where we're going to invest our money, and we're going to create the opportunities for the people. So it really is kind of like you're making this breathing, living thing. It's the soul. How are we going to fund what we want to see? How are we going to make that, bring that to fruition with this money? So that's what I see with a budget. So when we're looking at these priorities that you have here and these strategies and how you fund each and every one, that's where it becomes so important. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the big budget items, the big questions, like the surplus, for example, that they're talking about using for tax relief. I think I have a vision for where that should be allocated within this when we get there. But I think it's interesting, looking at it as the soul, because it's like a bunch of numbers, and it's but it really feeds into the heart of the city. It's like the pulse.
Yeah, but you're making the city. You're giving the money for the transportation. You're giving the money for all of these systems to function. So at the end of it, how is it all working together? And that's that's what we're going to vote on.
Right, and we want the government to be transparent about how it does that. So shared prosperity and accountable government.
Soul budget.
This is basically the London plan, right?
Yeah.
So housing, health, and safety is basically the whole community response. So each pillar is going to be one plan.
I love it.
6 pillars, 6 plans. Okay. Okay. So they'll intersect a little bit. Sorry. Okay. Next, mobility, accessibility, infrastructure. A connected city. This is basically London Transit, rapid transit. There's this new thing in the budget for zero emissions bus.
Yep.
Where I think the city's putting in $12 or $13 million, and the federal government is matching half of it. So it's like a $25 million investment into electrical infrastructure for buses as well as new buses themselves.
Do you want to? Okay, so it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but so buying those buses means you need to have people that know how to service them, that know how to drive them. So again, there's all of those ideas that have to come into it, and so are we ready to take that on as a city?
Okay, so electrification is good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I do believe overall it is efficient, and supporting the industry will only contribute to that increase in efficiency over time. But to speak to your point, I wondered myself if it shouldn't be a smaller program.
Yeah.
Even though the federal government is matching the funds, which is a unique opportunity that they want to capitalize in and foster that relationship with. It's could they allocate $7 million less?
$30 million.
And help fund 2 more highly supportive housing units or something? With wraparound care, with detox beds, etc. And increased security, which they're planning on doing, and affordable housing as well. To address problems. This is stuff Councillor Stevenson was talking about.
She has some good ideas, and this is the thing. I don't poo-poo all of her ideas, because some of them are good. Some of them are really the accountability issues. Mm-hmm. But then my issue with Councillor Stevenson is that it goes nowhere. There's no solution. So okay, we don't want more affordable housing or whatever it is she's arguing about within Old East London.
It's almost a bit populist, isn't it?
Just a little bit. But where should those homes go though? I get it. We should not be focusing on that part of the city, but where else? Let's be logical about where things have to go. And that's my point about all of this.
Well, with respect to that, it's as the like Councillor Cuddy kind of like spoke out about the affordable housing new unit. I think it's the first of its kind in a long time in new construction of affordable housing. When all the old infrastructure is wearing down, was something they also talked about. Remember, they went into camera.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Trossel was worried about liability concerns around degrading infrastructure around
and he's
affordable
right.
housing. So, we'll get to this when we get into the priorities. I think because there are a lot of big things that we're talking about, and we'll be able to speak to it as well.
Yep.
So we have mobility, accessibility, and infrastructure. So I don't have a lot of focus here because they've already been investing so heavily into rapid transit.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of money's been going in. So I feel like it's already something that's already working, kind of like the London plan with housing development. It's like kind of working, so good. Keep doing that. So then the fifth one, creativity, culture, and innovation. It unites artists, makers, scientists, storytellers, visionaries under a shared umbrella of creative contribution. So it's like the university.
Yeah.
Fanshawe.
Yep.
Science, art.
And art. They go together anyway. I don't know why we ever separated them.
It's like...
It's the same.
It's like... Yeah, well, I mean, they can be.
I think, but music... is science, is art.
Yeah, on different levels. It's all... I think about knowledge, right? Knowledge and practice and discipline, right? So we want to foster, this is what I think we need to go with the branding, is like the city of innovation. We're willing to go out on a limb for creative and new solutions to generational problems. Okay, number 5, ecology and sustainability. So I took the word climate out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And sustainability is not just about ecological sustainability necessarily, right?
No, it's about it's a whole system.
Balance. It means, to me, it speaks to balance of development. And ecology is about the environment, really, obviously, but it's concerned with more than that as well. So it's really it's about land use planning, right? Focuses on aligning urban expansion, building practices, transit-oriented development, blah blah blah. So it kind of ties into everything else, but we're making it kind of our 6th pillar. So I have some ideas. That's
really good. I like how that goes. There was an idea that I had with the sustainability. Yeah, sustainability is the only way forward. I just think that anytime you make a plan, ensure that you are cleaning up after yourself and making something better for the next person. Any plan you do, anywhere you go, that kind of should be the rule, and that should be put into any strategy.
So, let's start there with the priorities.
Okay.
Some of the stuff we already talked about. Create an exciting pilot zone for mixed-use, off-grid, agrarian, residential development, passive homes, rammed earth, microfarms.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe to the south of the city, we continue with suburban expansion because they already have having that huge development, 8,000 units or something where the LPH was.
Oh, in the east, yes. In the east.
Yeah, like in the south east, yeah. So and then like maybe on the north end of town, or in other areas where you're getting into agricultural land. So you do new buildings like in alternative ways that are maybe less expensive, like passive homes don't require any heating systems.
Now start.
Sorry about the break there. We had to go meet a friend for a drink.
And you changed your shirt.
Another former city councilor. I changed my shirt.
And you changed your hair a little bit.
I had a couple drinks.
He's a little bit more relaxed, people.
And our camera turned off after 30 minutes, so I needed to figure out how to prevent that from happening.
We don't remember where we stopped.
So I did look into where we stopped, and I think I was just finishing up explaining the 6 pillars.
That's right, your 6 pillars.
Of my revised strategic plan.
It was good.
It's not a plan, it's a building.
It is something that we are going to construct things on.
It's just an idea. I'm just trying to say, show that, they identify a problem. It's like I took 3 hours to do this last night. It's pretty cohesive. I think it's more efficient. I think the language is more accessible. I mean, okay, I'm just going to list my 11 priorities really quick, and then we can move on to the next thing.
Okay.
I think it might even be 10 priorities.
I think you should run for mayor.
That's very kind of you.
Go for it. Go for your 11 or 10 priorities.
I don't think I have the professional gravitas or the necessary experience.
You never know.
But we're here. We're doing what we're doing.
We're doing what we're doing.
Okay, so Hubs. One, hub development is really slow. It gets people off the street really quickly. What they should do is leverage this to try to get more private funding. So be like, we match what the fund, $4.4 million they're getting from the $25 million that they've received, and try to get more donations. 2, affordable housing. We have the budget surplus. I know it's like maybe not something the city always increases their funding on, but with the 7,000 person wait list on affordable housing, I think this should be a thing, especially with degrading infrastructure. Along with this, I have an idea for city gardens. So basically, you have to have small garden spaces. This is for zoning of open drug use. We'll talk about this another time because it's complicated, right?
Yeah, no,
there's a lot to unpack there. We'll talk about it forever.
Yeah.
I think they should fund it LOSA as part of their reconciliation efforts, and they have one of the hubs. They're one of the successful leaders in this space.
That's correct.
And they're Indigenous-led, so I think we should be strengthening relationships with what works. For arts and culture and creativity, I think we should have microgrants. They often have these programs that often I find, knowing a lot of artists, pay a lot more than artists are used to being paid for a gig, which is good because it's an insertion of cash into these industries, but I think you get a lot more traction with smaller grants and with modest increase from surplus funds for this program. Next, psilocybin and psilocin legalization to spur innovation and research in psychedelic assisted therapy. The research indicates it's safe as long as proper screening takes place. It can fill gaps in treatment. A parking tower downtown. We're going electrification, not anti-car. Tree canopy targets. More trees for carbon capture and for reflecting heat back into the atmosphere from the sun. Thames River focus. If you're interested in sustainability and ecology and biodiversity, we ramp up efforts and continue efforts on cleaning up the Thames River and its tributary system, planting trees around it. And then, it's a small idea related to that, garden awards and competitions.
Cool. Whatever. That's adorable, though. I like that.
It is sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I like it.
I think it makes sense.
Yep, that's good.
It's simple. So it's like 9 priorities, 6 pillars. 3 of the priorities more or less interlap with the pillars. And it's all based on data, like hubs. It's been slow. There are unhoused people, unsheltered people who aren't accessing any emergency housing.
No.
We need to get them off the street. People are afraid of NIMBYism, which I think takes us into one of our future conversations.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if they're afraid of NIMBY. Yeah, well, no, the council is very afraid of NIMBYism.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, though. But everybody has, council has to stand up together. It can't be just 2 councillors and 2 councillors that are against and everybody else is for it. It has to be everybody, and it has to be a managed approach to all of this. So that actually goes back to having a strong leader with, having somebody that's spearheading all of this and making sure that everyone else is kind of following through.
I found the mayor was a little stronger this meeting than the first meeting we covered. For example, earlier when they were discussing the GDG, he addressed some of Trossow's statements, basically saying, we're not always going to agree with each other. None of us are none of us speak for everybody.
No, and this is the thing. I don't envy the mayor for this council at all, because I think that there are definite voting blocks, but there are 2 councillors that kind of stand out, kind of fighting against each other. Councillor Trossow and Councillor Stevenson kind of go at each other all the time. Where I think that the mayor could probably put them together and say, hey, listen, let's dial this back a bit, so that you waste less time, but you're also finding more common ground. And I think the mayor's missing opportunities to kind of put people together and say, hey, let's work on these things. I don't know if he's doing that, mind you. I have no idea, but it just doesn't, with what's going on, I don't see it.
Yeah, just from an intuitive sense that I get, I think the mayor is a little bit impatient with Stevenson and sometimes with Trossow. He seems to direct, I don't know what they're called, points of order or whatever, when he seems to remind them of what they should be talking about specifically a lot. But I recognize their contributions. Trossow is kind of trying to look at it through a legal perspective, looking at bringing up problems in the language, which is important.
Very important.
It's very contribution. Stevenson, in this meeting, for example, was looking at cost savings.
Yep.
That's how the whole GDG thing started.
like, I don't disagree with some of the things she puts out there. Again, like I said this before, and I'll say it again, that she has some really good ideas in terms of, like, questioning the strategic priorities and how much is being done and going back and measuring the outcomes. And, you know, you're going to have people say, well, how are we going to measure the outcomes? Well, there are key performance indicators where you can measure outcomes, and I think that's really important. You need to measure the outcomes.
We need dashboards.
You need dashboards, but you need to. But
so you can access the information instantly, real time information.
I don't
want AI to read reports from me.
You want it real dashboards
or transcripts that are unavailable. I want a dashboard.
Yeah, there's that, and then there was one other thing she did that I thought was really good, but then she doesn't carry it forward. She does about half the work. So she'll ask a question that's really good, but then she's like, okay, and doesn't offer anything.
She points to the problem.
But never offers a solution, and the solutions she offers don't fit within any of the guidelines that are there. Like, you can't do them.
Yeah, if only there was somebody offering a bunch of evidence-based solutions that are cost-effective. If only there was somebody who could think like that. Okay, so corporate asset management plan. So, Trossau brought up the state of disrepair of city assets, especially affordable housing infrastructure.
Yep.
And liability concerns related to them, and they went to camera to discuss in the privacy of the room. So I think that's like, that kind of points to something I was talking about, which is affordable housing being a crux, because 7,000 people on the wait list. The infrastructure is degrading. Some of these buildings are 50 years old. You know, there are all sorts of specific problems.
And they're going to have to take down some of these buildings. And so where are we going to put those people when those things are being re-renovated?
Absolutely. So they need to build new buildings and, like, transition people. And then if capable, you, like, totally rebuild the buildings if they can be salvaged. Right? So there needs to be an injection of that, because, as I stated before, you don't want people on the fringe of the affordability crisis falling into homelessness.
Yep.
It's like, if there are already addiction problems or mental health problems with, you know, that we suffer through, it's just going to get worse.
And not to like, this is kind of the bills keep going up. All of our bills with inflation keep going up. And if that tax bill keeps going up, that's how you get more people on the street. People that can't afford their monthly bills. So anytime you raise taxes, you're also increasing, like, that, you know, that security.
Which speaks to Stevenson too. Like, there are the broad strokes of the budget, you know, like big new spending on electric buses. You know, they're reinvesting into emergency shelters like the Arcade mission. But if you really want to find savings, a lot of the time it has to be with a fine-tooth comb. You have to be looking at all the reports. This is why I brought up, like, housing intensification, like, furthering. It's like, is there a space where we're greenwashing? Like, I brought up the moving of a wetlands, and we can't have 10 or 20% more houses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like little differences. So, you know, whenever councillors bring up stuff like that, I'm always happy to see it.
So the other place where Stevenson really, I agreed with her, is when she raised the transparency concerns with the reserve reports. She's been asking for numbers, and she's not getting the numbers that she's been asking, or maybe she's been getting them, but she's saying that she's not getting them. And I think it's important that whatever's happening, that's public money. So if she's raising concerns about that, that's a democracy thing, and I think she's well within her rights to ask
and
that.
The approval of the template contribution agreement for highly supportive housing, where she's like, has a few concerns, right? She wants council control over highly supportive housing site approval specifically. So in order for a site to be approved for highly supportive housing, you'd have to go through council, which I think is good. I think some of the potential conflict comes into, you know, lording over NIMBY concerns, which is like a real thing. But also, she wanted to tighten up the rules for loan repayments with respect to you know, standards.
Yep.
So there's discussion on that. Like, Trossau seemed to think that the amendment or whatever.
Didn't he get offended by that?
Redundant. He thought it was redundant and not unnecessary from a legal perspective, and that's actually what the council ended up agreeing on.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
They voted. Yeah, they voted against that. So let's see here. There is on NIMBY problems with. Yeah, so this is kind of concerns. This is what I wanted to talk about. These concerns that are parallel on hubs, highly supportive housing, and affordable housing with respect to optics. And you've expressed to me that you think council is not willing to make unpopular decisions in terms of implementing more of these hubs.
No, I don't think they can. I think that it's all going to come back down to NIMBYism again. Like, I think they're going to. The problem. This is what I think has to happen: is that you pre-choose the locations, right? And so the mayor got up and spoke about LMCH, right? And I think it was Trossow that had the issue with the LMCH, and when
CMHA. Continuing mental health.
Right, that's right. CMHA, not LMCH. Sorry, the CMHA.
Yeah, and the federal funding that he was also optimistic about federal funding for.
Right, and I think he's very optimistic, but he very vehemently spoke in favor of this, and I agree with him on that point. But the point remains that what they're trying to do right now is put these legislations or these guidelines in so that if anything changes hands, that these things stay the same. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I think they made the right decision. The thing is, like, Cuddy, like, asked the question, is this going to affect affordable housing or just highly supportive housing? And they're like, no, this won't affect affordable housing, because he was celebrating his the Vincent de Paul project, which is one of the first new projects of its kind that's in his riding, in his ward.
Yep.
But it makes another point. Like, I guess he's indirectly expressing concerns about, once again, barriers, red tape, administrative check boxes that are just going to be other loops, other cycles of referral that are going to hold things up.
And this is it. This is why we really do need to cut a lot of the red tape. It's because anytime you try to do something, well, you're hit against this regulation or this kind of guideline or whatever it is, and so untying our hands a bit, which the provincial government is trying to do, but while they're doing that, they're making it so that they have the ultimate control. That's how we're going in this province. It's a little bit worrisome. Yes, they're going to do it, but it's going to be at the cost of the citizen. Do you kind of understand what I'm saying?
It always is.
Yeah, but you can do the government can do it so that they let go of the reins. They don't have to do that.
Well, it is supposed to be a provincial thing, right?
Yeah,
All this stuff, like respecting even like institutionalization, right, or the deinstitutionalization. Like, this is part of the discourse today. Like, is it a level of care that people require, like people with certain mental illnesses? Yeah,
I think they do. I think so. I think every situation is different. And I think that you have to contextualize everything. And so that's why the language becomes very important. And so when you call something, like when you call a name like deeply affordable housing, that means 10% to something. So there's all of these different languages and tools.
Like $100 out of a ODSP those programs are good.
They're great
because
programs,
the thing is, what it is though, is like there's not enough money for disability pensions. But then there's like subsidized housing, so it's almost like these two different systems are in conflict with each other, or they're not in synchrony. You know what I mean?
The left hand really doesn't talk with the right hand.
Yeah.
And that's what we're finding out. So, and the other thing too is everything's dated, so everything takes time. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I'm good. I'm good here.
That was fun.
Yeah.
It was a journey.
It was a journey.
Certainly a journey.
I think we've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I think it's getting better.
All right. Amazing.
I feel great.
High five.